Does suspending 6 Secret Service agents really keep the president safer? Nearly 1 year after President Trump survived an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, the elite law enforcement agency is still under scrutiny. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and America's News starts right now.
Tonight, it's been nearly a year since President Trump was nearly assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the Secret Service is just now announcing the suspension of 6 agents. What took so long? Then we're live in Texas, where police are urgently searching for a Marine Corps veteran, but not for the reason you'd think. They say he took part in that violent attack on an ICE detention center. And later,
is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
10-4, standby. We have to get that approved with our supervisor.
New dispatch audio shows just how long it took for authorities to alert Texas residents of catastrophic flooding. How many lives might have been saved had people been warned sooner?
But first tonight, accountability at the Secret Service. Nearly a year after a gunman narrowly missed killing President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania, the Secret Service says it is suspending 6 agents for their actions and inactions that day. The suspensions range from 10 to 42 days without pay. They're expected to begin in August, according to a source who spoke to NewsNation. The agents impacted include a member of Trump's Secret Service protection detail at the time and a counter sniper. Once those agents return to work, they will be placed on restricted duty. Now, this news comes just 3 days before the 1-year anniversary of that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. 20-year-old Thomas Crooks was able to climb onto a rooftop a mere 150 yards away from where Trump was speaking and then fire 8 bullets using an AR-15 style rifle.
Take a look at what happened.
One of those bullets grazed Trump's right ear, a quarter inch from taking his life. 2 men attending the rally were critically injured, and a third man died while trying to shield his family from gunfire. Corey Comparator was a volunteer fire chief and the father of 2 daughters. His widow blames the Secret Service for not doing more to stop the shooter.
We were all sitting ducks that day. Our blood is all over their hands. I'm angry. I lost the love of my life.
A Secret Service sniper shot and killed Thomas Crooks 16 seconds after the shooting began, according to a report from an independent review panel. So what went wrong that day? Well, a timeline reveals several missed opportunities for police and the Secret Service to take action before the shooting began. A local counter sniper first noticed Crooks at a picnic table about 90 minutes before Trump took the stage. He texted his colleagues about him because he looked suspicious. Then, about 20 minutes before Trump took the stage, another sniper texted photos of Crooks using a rangefinder and recommended that Secret Service agents, quote, look out. I want to bring in Michael DeGuss now, a former Secret Service special agent who served several years. He now heads up global security for an entertainment-based company in Los Angeles. Great to have you, Mike. It's been nearly a year now since the shooting. Why is the Secret Service just announcing these suspensions now?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and nice seeing you. I think the timeline for these things, it mimics any other investigation. These things take time. You can't just step in and expect and demand somebody gets fired, suspended, whatever, without due course of action on due diligence for an investigation to take place and unfold.
The leader of the Secret Service that day called it the worst failure in decades for the service. The widow of Corey Comparator, the man who was killed, said she wants people fired. Why do you think that's not happening?
Elizabeth, I mean, I don't have the answer for you as to why it's not happening. What they're doing is step-by-step methodical to route out the problem. I mean, I think they're recognizing there's a people issue. There's some training and methodology that needs to be reinvigorated back in there amongst those people. And I don't have the answer for you about firing or not. Heart obviously goes out to the widow, like everybody I'm sure does.
Yeah. The Secret Service, we know, spotted the gunman Thomas Crooks on the roof of that warehouse 10 minutes before Trump took the stage, 20 minutes before Crooks opened fire. They still allowed the president to go on that stage and go into the line of fire. Why was that decision made?
Another great question, Elizabeth. There's a people issue there. There's a breakdown in the mechanics of the methodology. And again, that's where I think the routing out of what I read today, of what they're doing, requires them to get back in and reflexively learn from events like this, and not be complacent, but actually take these lessons as monumental lessons, just like a Reagan event, a Kennedy event, a McKinley assassination. I mean, if you go back to 1901 with McKinley, the Secret Service did protection right after that. And even then it was one person, basically 9 to 5. And if you look from 124 years later, one person guarding a president to today, the machine that evolves in 124 years, the pivots, the adaptation of the threats, the landscape, all that comes into effect. Even like a Hinckley, when you have the Reagan assassination attempt on that, the service reflexively learns and tightens its grip and starts to decide, hey, we're no longer publishing down to the minute details. Nobody's getting that close of a president walking out the door anymore. That, like, all these things become learning points, whereas 2020 hindsight, it doesn't apply in the moment a year ago. But in retrospect, a Hinckley getting that close never happened. Never in a million years happened.
A DHS review of the assassination attempt said that there were a series of law enforcement breakdowns that day and that the Secret Service, quote, did not perform at the elite levels needed to discharge their critical mission. It's become, quote, too bureaucratic, complacent, and static, even though risks have multiplied and technology has evolved. That last part about technology, I mean, we know that Thomas Crooks used a drone to scope out the entire area. And is the Secret Service using drones? Why didn't the Secret Service notice the drone? In other words, things are really evolving quite quickly.
Well, they do. They evolve quickly and they evolve rapidly. But the realistic underlying theme to the problem, in my humble opinion, is it's a people issue. So I don't care how many drones, how many technology components you deploy, put out there, you still have to have that human involvement to manage, mitigate, and then decide, how do I go deal with it? Just because there's a drone out there, you still got to mobilize and get people to see it, assess it, and deal with it. And if you can't do that as a human, you're the wrong person in the wrong seat on the bus that day.
One of the Secret Service agents who was on the stage with President Trump that day, who helped actually, protectively get him off the stage, he is now leading the Secret Service, and I'm sure leading this investigation, and the one who signed off on this disciplinary action, that is Sean Curran. He said today the Secret Service is, quote, laser focused on ensuring that we are the people we're sworn to protect, we never let down again. He clearly is focusing on what needs to change. What do you, based on your experience in the Secret Service, what do you think needs to change going forward?
Well, I think, again, it's a human dynamic issue. Having Sean take the leadership role as the director is perfect. I mean, watching his mettle get tested that day, I mean, Elizabeth, the ability to, when shots are firing, jump on the stage and grab your protectee like that, most people don't get their mettle tested to see if that's possible, first of all. Second of all, the fact that he was able to do that, that's a guy that jumps into command roles and makes decisions in fractions of a second and risks his life to make the right decision. Perfect guy to put in charge. Is he laser focused? That's the third point. Absolutely. And I think necessarily what he's doing is focusing in on, you got to deal with the people here. And it's not necessarily that the service has a methodology issue on protection. Protection is academic. There's very specific steps. It doesn't matter where, how big, how small the event, the site, the protectee, whatever. It's academic. It's routine. But if it's not installed in that person properly, they don't get the reps, they don't understand the game, you're going to have breakdowns and have issues. And I just think, unfortunately, that day, what played out real time is there was people that were tasked with doing the job that can't necessarily have played at that level when you bring former President Trump at the time, because he was, again, former president. Yeah. And it was before he was actually the Republican nominee. So you're moving into things where assets aren't necessarily granted, but he was in a gray area. And so it's there's a lot of stuff on the outside.
Right. And he was asking at that point for more protection from the Biden
100%.
administration. All right, Mike to Gus. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this in the coming days and weeks. The reaction so far to the suspensions has been a bit controversial, at least from members of Congress. Really appreciate your perspective as a former member of the Secret Service. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
All right, as we just mentioned, this Sunday, July 13th, does mark 1 year since that assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Make sure you watch our 1 hour special, The Plot to Kill Trump, 1 year later, hosted by NewsNation's Brian Entin. He'll be talking to eyewitnesses and digging into what we do and don't know about the shooter, Thomas Crooks. That's this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern on NewsNation. All right, turning now to the Middle East, where a deal between Hamas and Israel could be just days away. President Trump is relaying that optimistic news as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets for high-level talks in Washington with the president.
I will tell you we're getting very close to a deal. I don't know if it's secret or not secret, but it doesn't matter to me. Secret's fine if it gets us to where we want to be. We want to have a ceasefire. We want to have peace. We want to get the hostages back. And I think we're close to doing it.
Now, as part of the deal to end the 21-month conflict, Hamas says it would free some of the remaining hostages. Now, this is incredible news for the hostage families, but it comes with the excruciating decision of which of those hostages will be freed and which will be left behind. Israel says 50 hostages are still being held in Hamas captivity. Up to 20 of them are believed to still be alive. 28 are already classified as dead. For more, we're now joined by Tammy Bruce, spokesperson for the State Department. Tammy, great to see you again. So this current deal that we heard President Trump, talking hopefully about this week, and also Steve Witkoff, this current deal calls for only 10 of the 20 living hostages to be freed, with Israel picking which 10 get to be freed. The mother of one of those hostages told the Wall Street Journal, "It's like Schindler's List. How can Israel choose who can stay in hell?" This is excruciating for them.
It is. Obviously, the entire dynamic when Hamas broke an existing ceasefire on October 7th, 2023, that this was the beginning of that kind of hell. It's what Hamas has wanted. The good news is that clearly the world that Hamas relied on, as we all know a few weekends ago, was changed dramatically. And now they're in a position where they have to make different kinds of decisions. I think the choice that Israel is making, of course, a tremendous ally of ours, is based in a framework of wanting to get this done as quickly and with diplomacy, right? We had a ceasefire once before, as your audience will remember, and Hamas broke that as well. So it's about getting hostages back. That is something President Trump has wanted, Secretary Rubio has wanted, in addition to making it clear that Hamas cannot continue to exist. So this is it's difficult. This is war. There are choices that clearly have to be made, and with the guidance of certainly our negotiators and what the world wants to see, we've got to get this done. And we want the carnage to stop. That has been the goal of President Trump. This is one more step, but clearly it has to be completed with a durable peace, with the elimination of Hamas, and with all of those hostages home.
Do you think President Trump sounded very, very hopeful yesterday and the day before yesterday? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, does not sound quite as optimistic that this deal will come this week or early next week. Even Steve Witkoff said, we think we'll have it by the end of the week.
Yes, I think that it's Prime Minister Netanyahu has been dealing with this for so long, and prior to this last episode of barbarity, but for years before that, President Trump, though, as the President of the United States and being the man that he is, I think is being able to see this from a larger overview about the nature of the power of the United States, what we can exert, what we've been very clear about, the impact of the strikes on Iran to keep them from having a nuclear weapon. Also, the work Israel's done regarding the other death squads supported by Iran, that Iran is at its most vulnerable, but so are the death squads that have relied on it. So President Trump has made deals most of his life. We know that he understands the mechanisms involved with the people he's dealing with. I'm excited by his optimism, and he wants this to work, and we are doing what we can to make it work. And I think we need to look at his attitude as the North Star, if you will, of what's possible here.
All right. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in the meantime, met today with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, where he reportedly shared Trump's disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress in peace talks. Is President Trump prepared to get tougher with Russia, to take more action, whether it be sanctions or to send Ukraine equipment to fight back if Russia doesn't come to the table and begin to negotiate in full transparency and with willingness?
Well, I'm not clearly, I would not get ahead of the president, will not speculate on the choices that he will make. However, he has many tools in his tool chest. We've discussed that before. Already, we know that the president's discussed more weaponry for defense for Ukraine. That is of course, reestablished. But he's been very vocal and transparent about not liking the nature of what Putin has been doing. The elevated attacks on civilian areas in Ukraine has been obscene. And yes, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, conveyed that to Lavrov during the ASEAN summit in Malaysia. And so they know. But President Trump, as we've seen even with Iran, President Trump wants diplomacy to work, but he wants peace. That is the ultimate goal, and he will do what is necessary to make that peace happen. And we'll have to trust him, knowing that he knows more than we do, his understanding of the environment, and his willingness to do what it takes.
All right. Tammy Bruce from the State Department. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Great seeing you.
Good to see you, too. All right, coming up for us, we're following breaking news. You're looking live at a standoff between immigration officers and farm workers at a pot farm in California. We've got details on what's going on there next. Plus, we're live in Texas, where police are looking for a Marine Corps veteran they say took part in that violent attack on an ICE detention center on July 4th, even brought the guns that were used. And later, we'll hear the moment that first responders in Texas realized these were no ordinary floodwaters. We'll play the full audio coming up. We're following breaking news. An immigration raid at a California cannabis farm appears to be escalating. You're looking live at Glass House Farms in Ventura County. For the last few hours, there's been an apparent standoff between a group of people, possibly farm workers, and Customs and Border Patrol agents. Earlier today, helicopter video showed tear gas being deployed to disperse the crowd. It's not clear if any undocumented workers were arrested. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer asked Border Czar Tom Homan about the standoff. He said any violence toward agents will not be tolerated.
You have the right to protest. I support that. But when you cross the line on impeding us, you're going to be arrested. If you cross the line and putting hands on an ICE officer, zero tolerance, you're going to be arrested. So yell and scream all you want. You're not going to stop ICE from doing our job.
The incident is just the latest standoff with immigration officials in Texas tonight. Officials are searching for another suspect that they say is connected to that violent attack on an ICE detention facility on July 4th. 32-year-old Benjamin Song is on the Texas top 10 most wanted list. He's a Marine veteran, and he's facing a slew of charges, including attempted murder of a federal officer. A dozen people have been arrested for the violent ambush on that facility in the city of Alvarado outside Dallas. One officer was injured when he was shot in the neck. NewsNation correspondent Allie Bradley is live in Texas with more. Allie, this is pretty amazing that they're looking for this veteran who was associated, they suspect, of being part of this attack.
Yeah, the FBI, Elizabeth, has a $25,000 reward out for 32-year-old Benjamin Song, who you mentioned is a retired Marine reservist, and he's being charged with discharging his firearms. So that's attempted murder of these federal officers. And he's also being charged with discharging a firearm at that facility in Alvarado. He's on that most wanted list, and the FBI is saying that Song should be considered armed and dangerous as they're out looking for him right now. Now, according to the Department of Justice, Song's phone phone was actually located near Prairieland Detention Center. That's that ICE facility that was attacked in Alvarado on July 4th on that evening until after dark on July 5th, the day after that attack. So that's what's kind of triangulating him being present there. Now, Texas also issuing a blue alert for Song, adding him to their top 10 list as well. The Lone Star State is offering another $10,000 for information leading to his arrest. Now, we want to highlight another arrest, though, out of this incident that happened. This one was made in connection to the incident as well. Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada, he was the 11th suspect arrested in the case. Now, he was not on scene. He's actually the husband of one of the suspects who was involved in that attack. Now, Sanchez Estrada, he was actually a DACA and a green card recipient. Those things were granted to him back in 2023 under the previous administration, according to our DHS sources. Now, he is being charged with removing incriminating evidence from his apartment. As I mentioned, he was not on scene, but that's what he's being charged with. The complaint says he knowingly and willfully altered, destroyed, mutilated, or concealed a record with the intent to make it basically inadmissible in any kind of proceedings. Now, El Centro Sector Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino, he's essentially running some interior enforcement operations for the agency. He says people looking to harm agents or attack buildings that they work in should think twice. Take a listen.
Definitely not a smart idea to take on a police station or a border patrol station or something like that. That just shows that perhaps those folks are not the sharpest tools in the shed. Don't do that. There's no good outcome for anyone there, especially the perpetrators. So don't think about doing that kind of thing. It won't work out well for you.
Okay, so Elizabeth, 10 others were also arrested in that incident in Alvarado, Texas. They're being charged with attempted murder of federal officers and firearms offenses. And I just talked with Chief Bovino, just heard from him. He confirms those are his teams out at that California pop farm where you're talking about that standoff just before our conversation, Elizabeth.
All right, Allie Bradley reporting live from Texas tonight. Thank you. Coming up for us, after every natural disaster, the question arises, is FEMA doing enough? I spoke to a woman earlier this week on this show who told me she lost her home and her entire business in the Texas floods. Tonight, she says FEMA won't help her rebuild. I'll ask her why next. To Texas now, where the grim and grueling search through mountains of twisted limbs, tossed vehicles, and dangerous debris is proving exhaustively challenging for search teams. Nearly a week after the rain-swollen Guadalupe River flooded the Texas Hill Country, the death toll tonight stands at 120. And with more than 160 people still missing, that number is sure to rise. Those who survived the terrifying disaster have a daunting task before them, surveying what was lost and hopefully getting assistance to rebuild. Among them is Lorena Guillen, the owner of the Oaks RV Park in Kerrville, one of the hardest hit areas. That RV park was destroyed in the floods. More than 24 RVs were parked there at the time, and they were all washed away. Guillen heroically did her best to help save almost everybody in their park, banging on the doors, warning each one of them early Friday morning as the floodwaters rose, telling them to get out. But now Guillen says she is the one who needs help, along with many other small business owners in the devastated region. And despite asking for help from FEMA officials in the area, Guillen says she's been frustrated with the response. Lorena Guillen joins me now with more. Great to see you again, Lorena. So tell me what FEMA told you when you went to them and said, I need help rebuilding.
Yes, two of the FEMA representatives were here on my park talking to one of my residents, and I approached them to ask them where could I go, because I hadn't done anything. I haven't applied. I've been just focusing on my residents and, providing them with the paperwork they need. But when I asked them, where can I go for businesses, they said that they were not helping any businesses in the area. The only thing they were doing is they partnered with the Small Business Administration, and that we could apply for a loan. When I look it up on the website, it's a loan at 4% interest. I mean, this is a slap in the face. How am I gonna pay my mortgage and rebuild at the same time, and then having to pay back a loan? yes, it's going to, they don't require payment for 12 months, but this is going to take more than 12 months to rebuild. And we lost 100% of revenue. We have nothing. My restaurant is the other one that is heavily affected because, again, I have 16 employees to support, and I lost all my tourism. The local customers, they're a big part, but we fill in the gap with the tourism. Yeah. And they're not going to be here for months. How I'm going to support my employees? How am I going to make payroll tomorrow? How am I going to pay my mortgage? And I'm supposed to go get a loan at 4% interest? So they're making money out of my misery? And I'm only one of hundreds of people who are here with the same situation. And I just don't understand why FEMA is not helping business owners.
In the past, did you understand that FEMA did help small businesses?
I never had need for FEMA before in my life. Every time we've had a flood, we clean it ourselves, we pay ourselves, we do everything ourselves, which we have been doing so far all this time with friends and family, just helping clearing debris with our own money. And, we were expecting the federal government, the federal agencies, which is FEMA, that helps with disasters, to come and help us. But no, we have to go get a loan.
Lorena, did you have any insurance for any of this?
On the properties, on the structures, yes, which is the restaurant and my house. My house got 2 feet of water. It's already cleaned up, fixed. I don't need help there. But the land, there's no insurance on the land. I lost my electrical, my plumbing, my sewer, my septic tanks, all of my concrete slab got flushed away. Everything is gone. I mean, there's holes the size of cars that need to be filled with, with base material. Just, 10 loads of that base material is $3,000. I'm going to need hundreds and hundreds of loads of materials to fill in all the holes, and then level the grounds, and then build back my retention wall. I mean, just so I can bring back my RVers, my renters, the people that wants to come back and stay here. And obviously, we're going to have a brand new design. My husband and I this morning were talking about how we're going to rebuild it in a safer way, where the elevation is much higher now. But no help. How are we going to do that?
Lorena
now, if I default on the loan, what?
Yeah.
Are they going to take my property?
Lorena Guillen, I am so sorry that you are going through so much. It just feels like you get through one thing and then something else happens. Please keep us posted. We want to try and stay with you on as much of the journey as we can. Thank you, and I'm so sorry again, Lorena.
Thank you so much.
All right, Kerr County, where Kerrville and Lorena is located, was the hardest hit of all the counties in the flood disaster zone. Most of the deaths occurred there, 96 of the 120 deaths. And the majority of the missing are in Kerr County, too. That's where more than 150 people are still unaccounted for. But tonight there are some tough questions about whether those terrible tolls might have been avoided or at least mitigated. At 4:22 a.m., as floodwaters quickly rose, a firefighter called emergency dispatch and asked for the operator to send an emergency alert to Kerr County. The dispatcher said she needed to get approval first before she could send that warning. Listen.
The Guadalupe Shoemaker sign is now underwater on Highway 39. Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
10-4, stand by. We have to get that approved with our supervisor.
Here's the problem. It would be 90 minutes before apparently that supervisor approved it, another hour and a half before that alert finally went out. And some residents in the county still didn't get any warning until after 10 a.m., hours later. By then, hundreds of people had already been swept away by the floodwaters. To help break it all down, we're joined now by former Kerr County Commissioner Tom Moser, who described the county's flood warning system as antiquated as far back as 2016. Great to have you with us, Tom. Why did it take 90 minutes for that alert to go out after that firefighter requested it?
I can't comment on that because I was not a commissioner at the time. What I did was try to improve the early warning system for floods back in the 2016-2021 period.
I'm just asking, as a former commissioner yourself, do you know what that process is? Is that a difficult time? You know, you've got a firefighter saying, we have an emergency here, send out the red alert, and then there's another 90 minutes before somebody approves it.
I still don't know the answer to that, and I'm not going to comment because we have an emergency management plan that's updated every 5 years. It describes what the event is and who's in charge, how to communicate, and how to respond. So I would just refer to you to that.
All right. Well, while you were a commissioner, you argued that sirens, flood sirens, could have helped save lives that night because you pushed hard for them, for that system to be set up in Kerr County. Why didn't it happen?
Well, let me tell you, I thought we could improve by having sirens and other types of ways to predict the emergency for flood warning, because it happened in Kerrville, a few miles south of Kerrville. Some families were killed in a flood, not nearly as severe as this. So I looked at that system. I brought that system concept back to Kerr County, enhanced it, presented it to Commissioners Court, city councilmen and other members, leaders of the community, and identified what we could do. And it would include ways to measure the rise in the water of the river and sirens to be set off.
And why did they not approve it?
Well, the reason they didn't approve the sirens is a lot of people in the community objected to sirens going off unintentionally or falsely, and like they do on your cell phone on occasion.
Right.
So we proceeded with the emergency management system, okay, and alarms, but without the sirens, and tried to get funding for that from the state, and we were not successful in getting grants for that.
Don't neighboring counties have this siren for floods?
Yes, they do. Some of them do, not all of them do, but some do. And the ones that did is what we modeled ours that we would like to have had in place, precisely.
Well, I can imagine right now with all of this happening, you are wishing that somebody had listened to your idea a few years ago when you proposed this, because sirens...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would have saved some lives.
I think so.
Tom Moser, really appreciate your perspective. Thanks so much.
Let me add one thing. Let this be a catalyst to make a better system to predict emergencies and to project the warning. A really good system. This ought to be the only good thing that'll come out of this.
Let's hope so. Prevent anything like this from happening again. Really appreciate it, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
All right, coming up for us, did young yuppies turn into socialists? And is that how Zoran Mamdani might soon be running the country's biggest city? We'll discuss after the break. And we're continuing to follow that breaking news out of Ventura County, California. Immigration officials in a standoff with protesters at a farm there. This is a live look as things appear to be heated. We'll bring you the updates as we get them. And remember, you can download our NewsNation app for the very latest news on this breaking news and everything else happening. River Page is a reporter for the Free Press and joins us now. So why is the laptop class signing on with Mamdani? Why are they so taken with him?
You know, I think that the laptop class, professional managerial class, whatever you want to call it, they've always been sort of radical. You know, these were people who were social reformers in the 1960s and 1970s. But they've also really always been driven by their anxiety, this fear of falling, as Barbara Ehrenreich, who herself was a socialist, she wrote this entire book about the professional managerial class, when they were abandoning the social reformism of the 1960s and 70s and becoming yuppies, embracing hypercapitalism, ushering in this era of deregulation.
Right, we know this generation's having a hard time. Their money, their six-figure salaries, low six-figure salaries, which would do well in the heartland, for example.
Right.
You can't make it in New York City or San Francisco or many of the other big cities. They're having a tough time. The question is, why are they believing everything Mamdani is saying when it's been proven that he can't do 2/3 of it by himself? The mayor can't do 2/3 of that.
Right. I mean, why did the, disenfranchised blue-collar middle class, downwardly mobile blue-collar middle class believe that Trump would build the wall and Mexico would pay for it, right? It's not necessarily that people believe in their hearts that all these things are going to happen, is that you're willing to say it. You're willing to attack the right people. You're putting up these big ideas. People like contrast. I think that part of Cuomo's problem is that he wasn't really able to articulate any ideas. I don't even know what Cuomo's campaign was about, really, except that he was running against Zoran. And so I think that's sort of the problem for the establishment. And nobody's really articulating a defense of the status quo, in part because I think so many people are dissatisfied by it, and both on the left and the right. And it's different segments of the society, right?
He's appealing, Zoran Mamdani, to the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Why? They are clearly not going to be bothered by the Hanukkah video we just showed. Like, that's... There aren't a lot of pro-Israel supporters in the progressive wing of the party. Is that why a video like that isn't killing them in a city where you have so many people who are Jewish?
I mean, it might be. I think that video was it was from like a Christmas album in India or something. I think maybe like in context it wasn't as nefarious as maybe it does look.
It
pretty
looks
nefarious.
now.
Yeah. In context, I think it looks pretty nefarious. But I mean, I guess people are just willing to make excuses for it, or they just don't think about it. I mean, to be fair, I do know like Jewish people who voted for Zoran.
Yeah.
And I think for some people it's like, well, what is the mayor of New York going to do about Israel anyway? It kind of doesn't matter.
Yes,
and I know a lot of other Jewish people who are really, really concerned. I'm not Jewish, so I can't speak for anybody. But
those same people are saying, what can the mayor of New York do about Israel? Well, the mayor of New York, this mayoral candidate has promised all sorts of things that he cannot do. He has promised that he will make bus rides free. He can't do that. The MTA and the governor control that. He's promised he'll make childcare free. He can't do that. You pay for that with a corporate tax hike. The governor does that. He can't raise minimum wage. He can't raise taxes on the rich. He can't do all sorts of things that he's promising to do and that all these people are so excited about. At some point, aren't people going to realize that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could also say, when will the Democratic Party realize that if they just lie to people, maybe they'll get more people who vote for them, instead of just being like, oh, we can't do anything. I don't know. I kind of, I don't support everything Zoran does. I didn't vote for him. But, I think Bernie probably couldn't have gotten Medicare for All passed, but he ran on it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for at least like giving people something that they can latch on to.
He's certainly caught fire somehow. River Page, thank you so much. Really great to have you here. Coming up for us, Congressman Randy Fine is being criticized for making some pretty aggressive remarks about Ilhan Omar, suggesting that she associates with Muslim terrorists. Chris Cuomo joins me next with more on that story. All right, Chris Cuomo joins me now. Chris, you're about to talk to Congressman Randy Fine, who on Tuesday night said some pretty amazing and shocking things about his fellow Congressman Ilhan Omar. The Democrats are calling on him to apologize. I guess you're going to take the opportunity to ask him if he's going to do just that?
Yeah, it depends on how much I want him to laugh in my face. I mean, look, this is a battle of extreme fringe factions, okay? Everybody's welcome on my show, and they're going to get fair treatment, and Congressman Fine has been on the show more than once. But does he really believe that Omar is a terrorist or has terroristic sympathies? Let's see what he says. And are the Democrats, or whatever they're called now, in any position to ask anyone to apologize? They still haven't come out and condemned what happened to the ICE officers. So nobody's got high ground, Elizabeth, and I'm not giving it to them.
All right. Well, it should be a spirited interview. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Have a great show, Chris.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.